Hello, it's Glenn Walford here, the founder of franchisebuyer.com.au, and I'm here with one of the leading franchise brokers in the country, Len Ferguson. Welcome to Franchise Buyer.
Thank you very much for having me.
Excellent, mate. And we're going to talk today about how do I negotiate the best franchise deal. So I thought no better person to talk about than that with you. And this is a video in the Franchise Buyer Expert series. So this is a series where you're going to be able to get all sorts of information of all sorts of things that you want to achieve in franchising. And this is going to be the place where you can find out. So let's go to the first one. Now you've given me 5 things that help someone negotiate the best franchise deal. Let's start with number 1. And the number 1 point you said was make sure you have the information at hand so you really understand the business. Can you explain that?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the times when you're working with, well, I'm usually on the other side of the fence, so I'm usually sort of negotiating.
As the broker?
Yeah, as the broker, so I'm negotiating with the buyer. And if I was a buyer, a lot of the times they really don't understand what they're really buying. They haven't done their due diligence, haven't done their homework. So my first tip would be to really understand the business and understand what points you can negotiate on, where there's some weaknesses in the businesses, where there's some positives. So really understand the business, because then you'll understand where there's negotiation opportunities.
And if you don't know how to do that, obviously there's advisors. So what are the main advices you would expect that people would have to be able to get the best deal done for them?
Well, you can use your accountant, you can use your solicitor. There's buyer advocates these days as well. So I know that you can actually get someone like me to act on your behalf as a buyer. There's all sorts of things like that there's all sorts of experts like that you can utilise. But the number 1 thing is you've got to still understand the whole thing yourself. So as a buyer, get the information, go through it very, in detail, and understand what you're looking at.
And I think from my point, one thing we missed there was that these advisors make sure that they know what they're doing with franchising.
Yeah, 100%.
So I've had accountants talk to me previously, great accountants, no problem at all with them at all, but have asked me things from a franchise deal perspective that I thought, whoa,
yeah,
you don't understand that part of a franchise deal.
Yeah, and that happens all the time. Yep.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
so franchise-specific advisors.
Yep.
And the second point you said in how to negotiate the best franchise deal was to figure out what your strategy is. Tell me more about that.
Well, I think a lot of the times they don't understand when you want to negotiate a purchase of a business. Well, how are you going to do that? So, what is your strategy? Do you want to get good terms? Do you want to get a good price? Do you want to get a blend of both of those? So, what is your strategy to achieve? What do you want to achieve in the purchase? So, don't just go in and make an offer willy-nilly. Understand why you're making that offer, and understand not the offer just isn't the price. It could be other terms that you want to see achieved as well. So, what is your strategy for buying this business?
So, what other terms as an example would you say?
Like quick settlements, long settlements. Things to be included within the business, vendor finance, all of these kind of things that you may actually want included. Certain stock levels that you don't want with the business. If it's a stock holding business, might be old, you don't want it, so you want the seller to remove that from the sale or give it to you for free. There's all of these kind of things that you might want to have a strategy for, and you write all them down and go in with them.
Okay. The third point was to make sure you negotiate your points off your list.
Yeah, and that goes back to that second point. So once you know what your strategy is, you start writing down the points you want to negotiate. And how many points that may be, it might be 5, 10, 20. So you'll have a list of points that you want to negotiate on. It might be, to get this kind of price, to get this level of vendor finance, there's lots of things like to have this kind of training included in the sale, all of those kind of areas that you might want to include within that, within the negotiation. So write them down, tick them off as you go through.
I remember we did a deal once, didn't we? And everything that you're telling me is everything that I should have done.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4 was how do I negotiate the best franchise deal? Document your negotiated agreement quickly. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah. Once you get agreement, you sometimes you want to get the agreement documented, contracted as quickly as you can. Don't delay, because sometimes you might have negotiated a great deal for yourself, but the other party may not be satisfied, and as time goes on...
Seller's remorse.
Yeah, seller's remorse. They might end up thinking that it wasn't a good deal. So you're always best trying to get a win-win. You try to get a win-win for everybody, but sometimes it depends on the situation at the time. So you might negotiate yourself a great deal, and once you're at that point and the deal's been done, get it done. So don't delay. Get the contract done and signed as quickly as possible after that point.
So it gives people less time to be changing their minds and dwelling on things.
Well, dwelling on points, it might be the deal might still be there, but they might, a point might change, or something about the business might change, or something with you might change. So there's certain things like that you need to be prepared for. So get that deal documented as quickly as you can.
Okay. And the fifth point that you talked about in how do I negotiate the best franchise deal was be prepared to give something to get something. So talk us through that.
Well, it goes back to that win-win sort of scenario. I know that's a bit of a motherhood statement, win-win, but sometimes you might, if you're going in hard, you might have something that you're prepared to give to actually achieve something that's more important to you. So, for example, there might be a situation where you might sort of say, okay, well, I'll pay this much up front and have this much paid over a period of time. But you might be prepared to go higher on the upfront if they come down on the interest rate or things like that. So you might be prepared to give something that's more in favour, that the seller might be more in favourable for, that you'll see something achieved back for yourself.
It actually brings back to a point I remember hearing you talk about some years ago now. It always stuck with me, is that it relates very much to negotiation, that you've seen over many, many years of deals, you've seen people do crazy things over a small amount of money.
Yeah,
and that people harpoon deals over stuff that is just mind-boggling.
Well, and I can
think that the give something to get something fits in.
And I've seen deals where a couple of $1 million deals that get unravelled over $50,000, and in the end, like I've said to the buyer of this situation, $50,000, how long are you going to own this business for? And, 10 years. Well, in the end, it's not a lot of money over a 10-year period, is it? So in the end, sometimes you get stuck on something.
Yep.
Be prepared to give a little bit. And sometimes you might find the deal gets done. Don't get stuck and bogged down, and, because we'll do a lot of negotiating, maybe not a lot of buying.
No, exactly. And they can harpoon a deal like that.
Just like that, yeah.
You might both be very motivated and suddenly not.
Yeah, exactly. And I've seen it happen more times, and I've seen a lot of deals that where sellers on the other side have harpooned themselves, where they got a really good offer, what I thought was a really good offer, and they knocked it back because they wanted more, only to see them years later or take half or much less than what they could have achieved, because they were stubborn on the price they wanted at the time. So sometimes it's better to just be a little bit more flexible in deals, because you're going to sell more, you're going to achieve a better result most likely.
Okay. Len Ferguson, franchise broker expert. Thanks for joining us on the Franchise Buyer Expert series.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.